Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to my channel Biology SS. So today we are going to solve the Unit 1 question paper of January 2026. Unit 1 Molecules, Diet, Transport and Health. Okay, so let's get started. This is question number 1. We can see the question is about cell membrane. Okay, let's start. The structure of the cell membrane controls the movement of substances into and out of the cell. Read through the following description of how substances move through the cell membrane. Complete the description by writing the most appropriate word or words on the dotted line. So let's see the question. The dash prevents large polar molecules from passing through the membrane. So the cell membrane, if we remember the structure of the cell membrane, let me show you the diagram. 1 minute. Okay, so this is the diagram of a cell membrane. It is the outermost part of a cell, and it is a membrane. It is constructed in the form of bilayer. Like you can see, it's the lipid bilayer. This is phospholipid head and this is phospholipid tail. This is the tail is hydrophobic where the head is hydrophilic, water loving. So in the cell, they are arranged in a way that they form a bilayer, and due to this bilayer, not every molecules can enter into the cell. It protects us from the external environment, like from the outer the outer membrane part to the inside. Differentiate between them. Okay, so let's move on to the question. The dash prevent large polar molecules from passing through the membrane. So the cell membrane, basically, which is known as the phospholipid bilayer, it prevents the larger molecules to get inside the cell. It protects the cell. So the first answer is phospholipid. Yes, phospholipid. If there is a concentration gradient, these molecules can pass through protein channels by a process called through the cell membrane. It's not like nothing can pass through it. Of course, things need to pass through the cell membrane, otherwise how can we survive? So when there is a concentration gradient, like between inside the cell and outside of the cell, and this is the membrane, okay, and this is inside of the cell and this is outside of the cell. So things need to pass through like this, and when there is a concentration gradient, these molecules can pass through the protein through protein channels by a process which is known as facilitated diffusion. Let me show you through this diagram more clearly. These are the channels. Okay, these are the channels through what many larger molecules can pass through these protein channels by facilitated diffusion, like following a concentration gradient from higher concentration area to a lower concentration area. And that, like the movement of the molecules from through a channel from a concentration gradient, is known as facilitated diffusion. Some substances are transported against a concentration gradient by a process called when some substances are needed inside the cell, but the concentration of it outside the cell is lower, but it still has to enter the cell, and for that process we require energy, which is known as ATP. Like it requires energy, and that is known as active transport. Okay, through active transport, the molecules are transported from a lower concentration area to a higher concentration area using ATP, like energy. And this process requires, as I say, this process requires ATP. Okay, like through what the energies are transported from a lower concentration area to a higher concentration area, and it requires the energy, the use of energy. Larger substances are taken into the cell when the cell membrane forms a vesicle around them, and this process is known as endocytosis, the most easier one, I guess. So when the largest substances, there is different types of way from which substances can enter into our cell, and endocytosis is one of them. And through this process, the vesicles are formed around the particles that are needed to be insert in our cell membrane into the cell through the cell membrane. So this forms vesicles, due to what this process is known as endocytosis. Let me show you the diagram once again and explain you. So this is a cell membrane. Make it as consider the round part as the inside of the cell and the upper part as outside of the cell. So things need to pass through it, right? So it has many different ways, and some of the ways are facilitated diffusion, active transport, endocytosis. So what is facilitated diffusion? When the molecules travel from a higher concentration to a lower concentration, but through some channel proteins. Okay, through the channel proteins, that is known as facilitated diffusion. And what is active transport? When the molecules transfers from the lower concentration to higher concentration using energy, that is called active transport. Like we are pumping the things actively using by spending our energy, and it requires ATP. ATP is the active form of energy. Okay, and what is endocytosis? Endocytosis is just the process where the vesicles are formed around a molecule which needed to be inside of a cell for it to pass through the cell membrane. And endocytosis is taking something inside the cell. And what is exocytosis? If I say exocytosis is absolutely the same process, but it involves the movement of vesicles from inside of the cell to the outside. Okay, so I think the first question was really easy, and this is the end of the first question. See you in the next question. Bye bye.